What's going on, you guys? Coming to you today with an Armada ship breakdown for the Quasar, and we're going to be looking at this ship. Wave 6 brought it to us. We're going to be looking at the different roles it could perform. We're going to be looking at the different titles available for it. We're going to look at some sample builds and ways that you might outfit this ship, and we're also going to be looking at the different commanders that support this ship and which ones I think will be ranked worst to best based on how they complement this specific ship. I also want to remind everybody I do have another round of the giveaway starting now, so the only thing you need to do to enter to win a expansion of your choice in the form of a cool stuff $20 gift card is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that, so make sure you are subscribed and click that bell for alerts so you don't miss out when I announce winners. That being said, let's look at the Quasar. We've got two versions. We've got a Quasar Fire 1 and a Quasar Fire 2. And they are very similar in most regards, but there are a couple of key differences between them. Let's look at the things that are the same between them. They only have 2 defense tokens, which is one thing you're going to notice right away. This is a medium ship that only has 2 defense tokens, so that means it's a little bit on the squishy side. Only 6 hull, which is all right, but we have small ships that can get 6 hull. So it's not really that that great for a medium ship. 7 or 8 would have felt a little better, but it's not meant to be as tanky of a ship. It's a support ship, so that's that's kind of one of the things that you're getting. But you're also paying a cheaper cost with only 54 and 61 points respectively. You do have 2 command dials, 4 squadron, which is really the shining point of this ship, and 2 engineering. So this is definitely a carrier. This ship is the best carrier in the game, at least in my opinion. It's a pure carrier. There are other really good carriers out there that have really good titles. Yavaris is a really, really great carrier, but this is a pure carrier because the Nebulon B can have multiple different roles, and this one, in almost every way that you're going to use it, it's going to function as a carrier, and it's going to excel in multiple ways to be carriers. So, 4 Squadron is really good, especially for the price. It's fairly maneuverable. It's got 2 clicks at speed 1, which is great. It's got 1 and 1 at speed 2, and then at speed 3, it starts to lose some maneuverability, giving it that empty tick at that first speed, and then 1 and 1. You don't have a whole lot of offensive capability on this ship. You're looking at 3 dice in the front, 2 on the side, and only 1 in the back. But the Quasar Fire 2 upgrades some of those to reds, so you got a little bit of red dice on this ship. Not as much as I would like for a 60-something point ship, but it's not necessarily a shooty ship. It's more of a supporty ship, so that's okay. Now on your other version, you have all blue dice, which aren't as great because it causes you to get a little bit closer usually, but there is some ways to remediate that with certain upgrades. But considering this ship is a little squishy, you don't always necessarily want to get it that close, so a lot of people will choose the Quasar Fire 2 over the Quasar Fire 1. One of the best things about this ship is the anti-squadron die for the Quasar Fire 2 is a red. Now, this is the first time we've seen a red anti-squadron die on a ship. So this is huge. Not only does it allow you to roll a red die, but it extends your range to the widest possible area. And the front arc on this ship is already so big that if you're taking front shots at anti-squadrons, you can potentially have your entire enemy group of squadrons in that one firing arc, and you can roll a lot of dice. So while the offensive capability against ships isn't that great, their offensive capability against squadrons can be really, really nice, especially with the Fire 2 because of the red die. And that opens up a whole lot of other combinations that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So great range there. Shielding isn't very good. We got 2, 2, 2, and 1 in the back. Meaning that this redirect isn't that useful, but it's a little bit useful. So, by the time it gets spent and exhausted and gone, you're probably not going to have any shields left anyway, which means that, single accuracies are really going to hurt you here. But let's look at the titles available for these ships. I am a big fan of the titles, actually. Some of these titles are great. Oh, no, I want to look at upgrades, too. I want to look at upgrades before we look at titles. So, and because these 2 ships are actually very different with their upgrades. So the Quasar Fire 1 has actually 2 offensive retrofits, which is not very common. We have seen this on the ISD-1, but we haven't seen this elsewhere. And it does have, the weapons team, which is a really good thing for a carrier to have. There's some really good cards like flight controllers that we can put there that really help for a carrier, and of course our officer slot. But what we don't have is a support team, so you kind of don't have the ability to do that combination that like Yavaris will like to do, which is fighter coordination team and flight flight commander. You're not going to be able to do that combination of basically doing your squadron command after you move, then you move them, and then you activate them again. But there's a title that'll do that. But now if we look at the Quasar Fire 2, we only have one offensive retrofit, but we have two, count them, two weapons teams, and that opens up a lot of really, really cool things, especially with this particular ship. So I'm liking that, and it allows them to serve different purposes. So first I want to look at titles. We've got Pursuant, Squall, and Stronghold. So we're going to go from cheapest to most expensive. The Pursuant is only 2 points, which isn't bad. And when you reveal a command other than a squadron command, you may discard this card to resolve a squadron command. Treat this command as if you spent a squadron command dial. So basically, it's almost like miniature Thrawn, right? It gives you one guaranteed squadron command, or virtually guaranteed, because a raid token could still stop you from doing that, unless of course you just get rid of the command dial and spend it. But the Pursuant, it gives you that guaranteed squadron command. Considering this is a guaranteed carrier, a really good carrier, it's there are times where you may want to do an engineering, even though your only engineering value is only 2. Maybe you want to do a nav, or maybe you want to do a concentrate fire. I think the most likely command that you would be doing other than squadron in this case would be nav, however. And so it gives you a way to make sure you can lock in that squadron. And it also is protection against things that are going to mess with your top command dial. And there's plenty of things like that, so it gives you some insurance against that as well. And you'll know these things at the beginning of the game. You'll know, oh, my opponent is rocking multiple Ghazantis with slicer tools, so I guess I will, make sure I have Pursuant, ready to go for in case I get hit by it. So I won't plan on nav commands or whatever. But then you have Squall. Squall is when you activate, you may choose up to 3 unengaged friendly squadrons at close to medium range. Those squadrons may move up to distance 2. If they do, they cannot end their movement engaged. So Squall is kind of letting you do what that combo, that fighter coordination team and flight commanders used to let you do, and that you could move some squadrons before you activate them. Well, this lets you do them as soon as you activate, so you don't have to wait until after you move. So it kind of gives you the same benefit, but it's restricted to only 2 squadrons, which is fine because that's kind of how Yavaris does it anyway, because they're only moving 2 regardless. And it's only 3 points, so it makes it actually cheaper than putting those 2 different upgrades on. And it also gives them farther movement because they can move at distance too. The only thing that makes this not as great as that other combination is because there's not as many ships that really, 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 really need it for Squall, because the Empire generally has faster ships, whereas the Rebellion really needs the boost because of their slow ships like the B-Wing, for example, which make great bombers, but they need help getting into engagement range. Usually the Imperial ships don't have as many problems getting into engagement range, so this is a title that you would probably use not to speed up slow ships at all, but more to make your opponent have a more difficult time predicting where your range actually is. Maybe they've pre-measured, oh, all right, your interceptor can only get here, so I'm safe, and then I move an interceptor distance 2, and then jump them speed 5, and then I've moved them almost all the way across the board, and you didn't expect that. So that's kind of, the tactics are a little different with how you're going to use this than the Rebels would use their kind of version of this, but it's still a very, very nice card. It's actually probably my favorite title for the Quasar. Next up is Stronghold. Before I jump to Stronghold, there's one other thing about Squall that I really, really like, and that is the introduction of strategic squadrons. Being able to move them also is just really, really nice because you put your lambdas out there. Let's pull up a lambda real quick because they're awesome. But the key thing, I went right past it, didn't I? If we look at strategic here, it's when you end your movement at distance 1 or more objective tokens. So when we're over here and we're looking at these titles, when we look at Squall, they get to make a move up to distance 2. So they're going to end their movement next to an objective token, and then move that objective token, and then you still haven't activated them. So then you can activate them and move them again. So that's one thing that's really, really nice. And it really factors in well with certain squadrons. I usually don't talk about squadrons in my ship breakdowns, but because of the unique role of this particular ship. I am going to talk a little bit about certain squadrons and how they're going to combo into certain builds, just because I think it's particularly relevant with the Quasar. All right, now on to the Stronghold. When a friendly squadron with swarm at distance 1 to 2 is defending, if the attack is treated as obstructed. So this one was good if you want to have a defensive screen. It's really good for that. Like put a couple of TIE fighters around there. They all have swarm. You're going to keep them at distance 1 to 2, so you're going to keep them kind of close. And anybody who comes in and tries to attack them, it's gonna make that attack obstructed. And you don't even have to keep them that close, because you can do your squadron command, send them up ahead to attack the other ship. You move at the end of your activation, and so then maybe you move back into range of those Star Destroyers, and I'm sorry, those TIE fighters. You're activating lots of little tiny Star Destroyers. But you move back into range of those squadrons that you just activated, and then kind of shroud them in your protective aura. This one is really nice, and because there's already a flotilla upgrade that obstructs attacks for squadrons, but that one works both ways, so it's a double-edged sword. So this one, only protects you and doesn't hurt you. So that's one thing that's really nice about this one. But it costs 5 points, so it's a little on the expensive side as far as titles go, but it's not too bad. There's some really nice ways to make this work with some of the other ships that are out there too. So let's look at some. Basically, the roles that this is going to perform. I've already talked about how it's a pure carrier, but it can also really function in my opinion, very well as an anti-squadron ship. So I'm gonna build out a Quasar Fire 2 here as an anti-squadron ship, and one of the things I'm gonna give it first off, I'm gonna give this one Callus. And this one shouldn't be too much of a surprise if you've kind of kept up with the game, because Callus is, while attacking a unique squadron, add 1 die of any color to your attack pool. And so Callus factors in really well with the Quasar Fire 2, because we've got red dice there. So we have so much range. It's very, very easy to have unique squadrons that we're going to be attacking. And it doesn't even matter if we potentially miss, because we can add a black die if we want, we have a really, really good chance of rolling a hit in that case. That much is really, really nice. Since we have such great range of attack too, we want to use upgrades that are going to trigger off of our attacking squadrons. So what's going to help us is Ruthless Strategist, one of my favorite cards, especially for the Quasar Fire 2. It's really best on the Quasar Fire 2, in my opinion. This is an upgrade that a lot of people ignored for a long time, but when I started fielding Quasar Fire 2s, I started putting these on them, and I have gotten so much success out of this card. It's absolutely phenomenal. The way it reads: after attacking a squadron, you may deal 1 damage to a friendly squadron engaged with the defender. If you do, the defender suffers 1 damage. First off, the defender just suffers 1 damage. So it doesn't even matter if I miss, right? I do have to actually be able to take the shot. So if it's obstructed and I don't, have that first red die, I'm not going to have the opportunity. But, but what's great here is, all right, I've got your ace. Let's say Shara Bay, who's somebody you really don't want to be attacking, right? Because she's an A-wing. She's got counter. Her crits count as counter. She's one of those squadrons that TIE fighters they'll attack her, and then her counter attack will one-shot the TIE fighter. So you really don't want to be having your squadrons go after Shara Bay. So your Quasar Fire 2 here can just attack Shara Bay. She's not going to be able to counter at long range. Callus adds a die also. If you rolled 2 red, you could potentially get 4 hits. Of course, she's going to scatter in that case. So maybe you roll a black or a blue, maybe efficient for that accuracy. Or maybe just roll the red first and see what you get, and then add a die to your pool based on what you get. But after that attack's over, you can just deal a damage to a TIE fighter that's engaged with her, and have it suffer. It'll suffer damage, but so will she. What's great about that is she can't brace against that damage. A-Wings only have 4 health anyway. And the good thing is, when you're doing your squadron attack, you're attacking multiple ships. And one of the things I like about this, there's multiple different squadron approaches. You could add TIE fighters, which are great, because a lot of times a TIE fighter gets taken out in a single squadron attack. I've had this happen so many times, especially against really heavy lists like Darth Vader, or Hera, or ships that are rolling lots of black dice. They can easily take out a TIE fighter in a single activation. So because of that, I'm okay with having my TIE fighters take a damage or 2 before they're blown up, as long as it guarantees a damage to the enemy target, because that's, works for me, because I was only 8 points for a squadron for me, and he was going to get blown up in 1 shot anyway. So I love Ruthless Strategist for that. But the other opportunity is you can have some really squadrons that have a lot of health that your opponent's not going to really think they're going to be able to kill anyway. Or somebody like Bosk, who if he's got a damage on him, he gets an automatic accuracy added to every attack. So if you have Bosk out there, you can use Ruthless Strategist, because a lot of times people don't want to attack Bosk because they don't want to put that first damage on him and give him accuracy. So you can put that first damage on him with Ruthless Strategists. It's really, really nice. It's one of my favorite techniques. But let's build this ship all the way out. So another thing is I'm going to go with titles. We'll put Squall on this one, and the reason is, if I'm going to be shooting you, I'm going to want ships that are close enough to you. So in case my ships are a little too far away, and I'm going to maybe I barely got you at range 5 and my TIE fighters are behind me, I'm going to move them a little bit closer and then activate them with my squadron command and then open fire. So it just helps make sure I can actually have my squadrons within range of you. Now I can't move them and end them engaged from Squall, but the idea is I can move them close enough so that I can reach you with their normal squadron command. And also Squall is versatile as well. And if we're going to fill up, I'm going to go ahead and fully outfit this one. We'll increase, we'll put expanded hangar bay, increase our squadron value up to 5, making us completely monstrous, and flight controllers. And so what this does, the full package with this particular build, is flight controllers is just really good, really, really good, because it's giving me an extra blue die on all the ships I activate. So that much is great. It makes those TIE fighters roll 4 or potentially 5 if I got Howl Runner there, like that. I'm also a big fan of using it with lambdas because, hey, look, our lambda is only rolling 2 black. So 2 black and a blue is actually really good against squadrons. Really good. It's very consistent. You're going to probably get 2 damage at least every time you attack. So I'm a big fan of that. But yes, so it all combos together. I've got 5 squadrons I can push towards you, then attack. And the thing is, my squadrons are going to attack first. So I also have, if I leave you with 1 health left, right? And now I can do my my squadron, my anti-squadron attack. Now I know for sure I'm going to go ahead and trigger Ruthless Strategy, even if it kills one of my TIE fighters, because it's going to be that last damage on your squadron that hasn't activated yet. So, this is still a carrier, but this is a more anti-squadron offensive builded carrier, and I love it. But it's expensive though. It ends up being this is 82 point Quasar, so we've almost doubled. Well, not really doubled, but we've added a significant amount of points. Let's look at a Quasar Fire 1 build. So our Quasar Fire 1 is our blue one. This is our cheaper one. This one is one that we're going to go for a little bit more generalized squadron support, like really good squadron support. So I'm going to start off with two upgrades here. I'm going to actually add, I am going to go with an expanded hangar bay again, because I'm going to make it activate 5 squadrons, but we're going to extend the range with boosted comms, because not every build is going to have lambdas in them. Even though I like lambdas, not every build is going to, especially if you're running like a Sloan. So let's say this is part of a Sloan fleet, and you want to maximize your TIE fighters, maybe some TIE Phantoms, maybe some TIE Interceptors, but you want those, you want to maximize your squadrons. It might just be all TIE fighters. One of the things I would still put flight controllers in here. Now I can't do Ruthless Strategists. I wouldn't necessarily need that though for this build. So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of the double offensive retrofit by giving us long range and 5 squadrons. So now we're, and honestly, boosted comms is such a, if you're flying your stuff kind of close to everybody else, boosted comms is tremendously good. It just really, really is. And so I like that. We'll go ahead and give this one, we'll go ahead and, if we're getting closer, I could see putting Pursuant on here because we're at more of a range of having our top dial messed with, especially with slicer tools and things like that. And then for our officer, we're going to go with Chirano. I'm a big fan of Chirano under certain circumstances. I like Chirano if you are running lambdas, for example. They're not just for them, but it does allow them to move and still trigger their strategic. But Chirano is really good if you're running TIE fighters. It's really good if you're running Mauler Mythal. It's really good if you've got expanded hangar bay. So if because he's for 10 points, he's giving you basically the equivalent of having intel, and you are only spending 10 points of him, and he's covering 5 squadrons that way. And so that's huge. And considering where everything's, that could eliminate your entire need for intel for your entire fleet this way. And considering an intel squadron, it costs more than Chirano, and you may need more than one intel squadron. He's definitely saving. He's giving you more shooters and less support. But he has to be put on a place that's really going to matter. So I like Chirano. Especially with Maul or Mythil, you can make him move again and just hit all those other people. But anybody who's got to move, he also going to work for bombers too. Like, oh, you tied me up. Well, I'm just going to move just out of range and then attack this ship. So very, very versatile Chirano is. You're going to be able to hit 5 squadrons. You're going to be able to hit them all over the place. Your squadrons are going to get extra blue dice, and you can guarantee that squadron command with Pursuant. And you're going for the cheaper version. And you'll have to be a little bit closer to the fight. Since you got blue dice too, you want to attack other ships with blue dice, but also you don't have to worry about rolling blanks when you attack other ships as well. So there is that advantage also, or at least that comfort. Let's go ahead and look at. I want to do another combo here for the Stronghold title, since I've kind of done one for each of the other titles. So for Stronghold, it says, well, a friendly squadron with swarm at distance 1 to 2 is defending. The attack is treated as obstructed. So let's say we were doing a Stronghold. I'm going to actually get rid of these other two real quick. We're just going to have this Stronghold. This one is, and you can do the upgrades for this one either way you want. You might still want to do, any of those other upgrades we looked at. Maybe expanded hangar bay. Maybe you want to still put flight controllers on there, or Agent Callus, or any of that stuff. But let's say we swapped out our officer. We have a new one in Wave 7 that can be really nice here, and that's Instructor Goren. While a friendly non-heavy squadron at distance 1 to 2 has counter 1 or increases counter value by 1. This one is nice. And there's a lot of good officers you could put on here. It's a medium ship. You could put Price on there to guarantee you being able to go last, although that's a carrier isn't necessarily the best to go last, so I wouldn't put Price on here. But you can put Captain Brunson to increase your survivability. You can put, you can put Nita in there if you don't necessarily want the redirect and you just want to stay kind of hang in the back and have more dice cancellation that way. Grint to give you extra squadron commands every turn. This way you can doing 6 every turn. If you have expanded hangar bay and you just choose squadron command on him, or Wolf Yularen, kind of same principle there. There's a lot of really good officer choices, and I think the officer is becoming the most contested upgrade slot. But in this case, we're going to go with Instructor Goren. So these two have some synergy together, and I like him because both of them are saying squadrons at distance 1 to 2. And again, don't forget, we can activate our squadrons, push them outside of range 1 to 2, because we're going to move at the end. We're going to move back into range. So this is going to make anybody who attacks those squadrons, they're going to be obstructed. And this one is going to allow them to fight back. This also works really well with the Sloan fleet, since it makes your countering ships a lot better. So we might. We're going to break down some squadrons that would be great. Now, a regular interceptor is going to work really well here, because a regular interceptor, even though they've got counter 2, where's my interceptors? They're down here. There we go. So your regular interceptor's got counter 2 and swarm, so this is going to give it counter 3, which is awesome. No doubt about that. It's only got 3 hull though, but that's going to make that attack obstructed, so it's harder to attack. Well, if we're doing interceptors, you still can potentially get killed. If somebody rolls a good enough attack against you, maybe Vader comes in, just completely wrecks shop. Well, how about Suntirfell? Well, Suntirfell at least has the scatter, so he's going to survive for a long time. And also he'll force everybody to be not forced, but they'll probably want to be targeting him, since they're going to take a damage from Suntir, and also they're going to take the counter attacks that Instructor Goren is giving them. So that is something. Now, you do have to worry. This does have the risk that somebody with intel is going to come up and mess you up. So maybe, since we have all this stuff with intel, we'll put Gar Saxon in there so that somebody else with intel comes in, they suffer some damage. We can put him in there just to give us mitigate our only weakness. But let's enhance our strengths a little bit more. Here's one of my favorites, Morna Key, she's basically a ship. She is basically a ship. And now the Decimators do have heavy, but Morna Key doesn't, because she's a special. That's one of her special things. And you're paying for her too, though. She's 20. She's more than a Ghazanti, but she's got counter 1 as well. So that's really cool. So with her counter 1, she's going to now have counter 2. And, you know what? Let's since we're improving counter, obviously we got to put Dengar on there. Dengar also has swarm. This is giving him at least counter 1. But yes. So Dengar is there. It's a nice set of squadrons, and we can add an escort on there too. Oh, let's throw Vader on there for the heck of it because we're acting crazy. But all of this, right? And we can add more interceptors if we want. We can. I'll double it up with interceptors. We don't have to have Vader. We could go with a cheaper escort and add more swarm ships, because swarm ships are going to be good. The interceptors are really going to work well with this particular thing, because now you're looking at, with Dengar there and the interceptors, you're going to be looking at counter 4, which is really nice. So is somebody actually going to want to attack your squadrons? Really, I don't think they will. And that is so nice. And the cool thing about this is the enemy attacks aren't going to be able to, like, not only squadrons attacking, but it's one of the friendly squadron with swarm at distance 1 and 2 is defending, period. Or comma, rather. The attack is treated as obstructed. This doesn't mean they have to be defending against another squadron. So even a ship coming by, like a raider swings by with, I'm going to roll 2 black dice on all your ships. Like, no, you might roll 1, So, and then that raider's going to get thrashed because I'm going to have all these, squadrons attack him back, because they have to be close range, they have to be enabled. My squadrons are going to have to be able to return fire if you're going to be close enough to attack my squadrons. Unless, of course, you're rolling a Quasar Fire 2 in, a mirror match. Maybe I'm going up against another Quasar, but you're not going to be able to make that first red die attack because it's going to be obstructive. So, a lot of different synergies here, but basically, to summarize, just about every version of the Quasar is going to be some type of carrier. It depends on if you're going with, like a pure carrier or an offensive carrier, or you're trying to, get some synergy out of your different keywords. So let's look at our commanders. At this point, I'm going to rank all the commanders for the Quasar, and I'm going to do them in order of worst to best. And this doesn't mean, like, if somebody is my worst, that I think they're a bad commander. It just means that I think they tend to benefit the Quasar maybe worse than other commanders do. And maybe the best here doesn't mean that they're the best overall, but maybe they just work best with the Quasar and complement the Quasar's abilities the best. So, with that being said, let's jump into our commanders. Coming in at, I can't use Darth Vader. Look at that, because I have him over here. Let's drop him off so he's highlighted like everybody else. Okay, so we've got all our commanders here. Let's zoom out just a little bit. There we go. What we're going to look at first is Ozzel. Ozzel is going to be kind of in last place for this ship. Now, this may strike you as a surprise. I mean, he's a cheap commander, and so that much is nice. And this ship does have the capability to go to speed 3, so you'd think, Ozzel can work with this ship. And I can say, yes, he can. The problem is, the Quasar is going to be probably doing a squadron command every single turn. So it's most likely that the Quasar is not going to be doing a whole lot of nav commands. So you're really not going to, if you're running the Quasar the way you're supposed to, you're probably not going to be doing a whole lot of, you could get some, like you could have, a flotilla pass you a token or things like that. But generally, you may get like 1 nav command per game on average if you're in it, and it's only if you're deliberately trying to. So I think, Ozzel is really giving you very little benefit because you want to be doing squadron commands, plain and simple. Next up in order is Screed. So Screed is one of those commanders that's, great if you need to guarantee that crit. So Screed works best with ships that have lots of attack dice and really awesome critical effects. So you have a die to spare in order to force that crit. The problem is here, let's take, our side arcs only have 2. So if for a side shot, you're only going to get, in a long range, you're only going to have the 1 die. So it doesn't really do anything at long range for our side shots. Our front shots, we could potentially have 3 dice, but we don't have the ability right now. There's no cards in the game that can go on the ship that are going to give it a really cool, critical effect, because we don't have turbo laser upgrade, we don't have ion cannon, and we don't have ordnance. So that's why Screed is kind of low, because he still can work. Like if you're running, you roll your 2 red dice at long range, yeah, maybe they're both blanks, or you get an accuracy and a blank, and you can just force 1 damage out there. But that's really not doing a whole lot for this ship or what this ship is trying to do. Next up on my list is Vader, for very similar reasons than Screed, although Vader is a little higher on the list because you have a little more use out of him because you don't have to sacrifice a die. But still, Vader's only working against ships versus ships. He's not allowing you to reroll your squadron attacks, whereas Screed could be used against the squadron. However, it's not going to help you because, you're rolling a red die against the squadron. But you only have 2 defense tokens, so do you really want to spend one of those precious defense tokens when with Vader? It's not really doing a whole lot for you. It could, in theory, especially when push comes to shove, it could. And at least with Vader, you can also get your side shots in, and you can try to do that for each of them. But then you're leaving yourself he's kind of like a worst case scenario. Like if you're counting on the anti-ship fire of your Quasar to make the difference, then something's gone wrong. So Vader's still low on the list. Now we're getting up into the middle. The guys that are decent, I think. Jerjerrod's decent. First off, he's cheap. He's only at 23 points. And second off, you don't get much out of him at speed 1, but at speed 3 you have a blank. At speed 2 you get a little bit, but at speed 3, if you're trying to go fast, he definitely gives you a lot more maneuverability because you do have that no clicks at speed 1 for the or on your first click for speed 3. So he can actually give you a full benefit at speed 3. The problem is that you're already a kind of a squishy ship, and you don't necessarily want to be taking that much damage if you don't have to. But you do have, at speed 3, you do want to use him. He's a little lower on my list, though, because Quasars generally tend to not want to go that fast. So usually they're going to go a little bit slower and kind of stay in the back of the field as a support. They don't want to be in the front line. So while it's possible, maybe you want to swing around and try to flank and outmaneuver your opponents a little bit. Most of the time, I don't think people will be running speed 3 very much with a Quasar, but if you do, Jerjerrod could be really cool. Next up is Constantine. Constantine is also cheap at 23. This is a medium ship. This is like the cheapest medium ship, so you can really get, you can that, and that's what it's going to be all about is having those medium ships on the board that allow Constantine to trigger. Although, while the price point is really great for Constantine, the whole mentality and what you're trying to do is only partially as good. Like, I'm not that big of a fan of Constantine in general. He's fun, and it can be really cool to mess with people's speed, but maybe it's just because I've seen so many games where people are using Constantine and they change my speed and they put it at such a speed that I wanted to be at anyway. Just because it's one of those things, like, Constantine, I think, takes a little bit of finesse to get working because you have to know when to not use him as well as when to use him. That being said, there is some advantage of slowing ships down when you want all your squadrons to go after them, because some ships may be going really fast and may overshoot your slower squadrons, and so slowing them down kind of keeps them in the death ball, and that can be helpful. And then sometimes you do want to just slow one down, speed another one up to break up the formation. Sometimes you can even cause their ships to bump each other if you speed up the one that's in the back and slow down the one that's in the front. Things like that are always fun. And the Quasar is at a good price point to make Constantine work. So he's kind of right in the middle there. Next up, we're getting to the better ones. Tarkan is actually not bad here. I like Tarkan if you're going with a really heavy squadron fleet, which you might very well be doing. Tarkan is really good for squadron-based fleets, handing out those extra squadron tokens. But not only for handing out the extra squadron tokens, but if all your ships are just doing squadron commands, he can hand out the nav token that they need, or he can hand out an engineering token first turn. So if they have to pull some shields from the rear to the front or whatever, they can do that without having to worry about, I'm not going to be able to do my squadron command. So he gives your whole fleet versatility when they otherwise wouldn't have any versatility. And Quasars, generally, like I said before, they need to be doing squadron command pretty much every turn. So Tarkan allows them to use all of the other things in their arsenal while still queuing up a squadron command every turn. So I like that for Tarkan. Even though he is expensive, he does fit very, very well, in my opinion, with carrier fleets. Now, generally, though, if you are going to use Tarkan, like he's a little lower on my, out of my good commanders for the Quasar, he's a little bit lower on there, and that has to do with his price. He's awfully expensive, but also he's going to work a little better if you're doing a lot of ships that are doing, like if you have multiple carriers, like let's say you're running like 16 ties or something like that, or if you're running more than 10 squadrons, you're probably going to have multiple carriers, and that's when Tarkin's really going to shine, because he's going to give both of those dedicated carriers, or maybe you have 3 dedicated carriers, but usually like 2 is more commonly seen. He's going to give both of them the flexibility. But if you've only got 1 dedicated carrier, he might not be as useful, because he might be cheap. It might be better just to go with a Ghazan that's going to pass you tokens. All right, now after Tarkan, we've got Tag. Tag is over here, and he's a little bit mediocre in the price range. 25 isn't too bad. And 3rd and 5th round, you can get one of your discarded defense tokens back. This is going to be especially useful with the Quasar that only has 2 defense tokens. We can potentially help them get that. Getting that brace back is really, really nice. The trick here is surviving to the 5th round to be able to get it back, and hopefully you have enough health left for it to matter. The really good part is actually really the 3rd round. If you guys start off going fast enough and you end up taking damage, such that he gives you the freedom to say, that's fine, I'll spend my brace, and that's no problem. If somebody uses Intel Officer on your 1 brace, you can be like, no problem, I'm using it, it's worth it because I'm getting it back. Tag is one of those guys that really shines on a ship like this. He works a little better if you have stuff that forces you to spend stuff. So if you have TRC on a ship with one evade or something like that, then he's really good on those too. But here, because you only got 2, they count for so much more. I look at it like Tag can let you recover 50% of your defense tokens. Wording it that way, it sounds much better. Next up is Mahdi. Mahdi's universally good. He's good all over the place. This is a cheap ship with 6 hull, but he's bringing it up to 8 hull because it's a medium ship. So that is making the Quasar a lot more survivable. And I don't really even need to try to sell you on it. It's as simple as that. Usually for like a 54 or 61 point ship, you're expected to maybe be a small ship and only get 1 extra out of Mahdi. But here you're getting 2 extra. You bring it up to 8. Now it's like it feels closer to a victory once you have Mahdi in your fleet with the Quasar. So I like that. Next up, Thrawn. I love Thrawn for any carrier fleet. He gives you a lot more the same way that Tarkan gives you flexibility, Thrawn gives you even better flexibility. Tarkan's going to do it every turn, but he's only giving you the token. Thrawn's giving you a dial. Thrawn's also giving you some great protection against raid tokens. Thrawn is also giving you, a lot of fun factor. So I like Thrawn. I like Thrawn a lot. And so, you don't have to. Now you can potentially, like, maybe your Quasar is at speed 2 and they want to do a full-blown concentrate fire command to try to get that, that anti-squadron off of that last, that 1 intel you have that's really crippling me, and I'm going to roll my, I'm going to use Agent Callus because they're names. It's maybe I'm going after your Dengar or something like that. And I want that accuracy, and I'm going to do concentrate fire and Agent Callus, add a blue die, but I still need my squadron command. Thrawn's got it. Or engineering. Maybe I've got a token I want to combine. All kinds of really great combinations you can do. But Thrawn requires you to plan a little bit, and he requires a little bit more in-depth knowledge of the game and being able to predict the way things are going to come. It makes him harder to play, but a big payoff if you can do it right. So, and he's Thrawn, right? I mean, that counts for so much. I think his difficulty might have actually put him below Mahdi, to be honest with you, the difficulty in planning it and getting it all set up. But because he's Thrawn, I mean, he's freaking Thrawn, so he's up there. But this shouldn't be a surprise for my number 1 pick. It's definitely Sloane. Sloane is the queen. She's amazing in this game, and she's had such a big impact, turning garbage Imperial squadrons into powerhouse Imperial squadrons. It makes sense that a carrier-based fleet is going to want Sloane, because the only restriction Sloane has is that these guys can't have rogue, and that's fine. You don't really want rogues, or at least you don't want many rogues. I mean, I'm okay with having 1 or 2. Like Morna Key is cool, especially if you've got enough squadron commands to hit everybody but 1. Then it makes sense to have that 1 rogue. It's okay, it gives you flexibility. But Sloane is letting those interceptors just wreak havoc. She's letting those TIE fighters wreak havoc, and really encourages you to have a whole lot, because everything you're going to roll on the blue die is going to be at least okay. You know, even if you roll that crit, just re-roll it. You roll that accuracy, that's great. And if you roll that hit, obviously that's great. Sloane is so good. And with a carrier-based fleet with a lot of squadrons that need to be activated since they don't have rogue. And this is the perfect, like this is the match made in heaven right here. That is going to wrap it up, guys. That is my list. But yes, I'm a big fan of Sloane and the Quasar. It's the match made in heaven. That's all I got for you for today, guys. If you like this video, I do ask you give it a thumbs up and support the channel. I appreciate that so much. You guys have been really great, and you've been helping the channel grow and allowing me to come here and continue giving great videos. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming up next week. I do expect some new announcements very, very, very soon. There is still big news for Armada that they have not released yet, and I have a feeling we'll see it. We're going to see it in a lot of other major announcements come out after Legion is announced, which is going to be next week. This is just, you know, if you're watching this in the distant future, I'm filming this in March of 2018, shortly before Legion comes out. So a lot of great news coming out, and I'll be covering all of it and all throughout the future. Anytime great news comes out, I'm going to be covering it, what new stuff is going to be out there, what new strategies, builds, ship breakdowns. We're working our way through all the way up to Wave 7. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.